Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Hello, I'm TERRIE Stadler, and I wrote the book, Who's Knocking at My Door? And this is a book about an experience that we had that actually happened when we were just sitting around looking at the computer and watching TV, etc. This is in Fort Myers, and we heard a knocking at the door, and when we went to investigate, we found that there was this soft-shell turtle using his big foot, and he was knocking on the door. He knocked like 3 or 4 times, but when we opened the door, well, he turned around and very quickly left the scene. But I've been talking about that since the beginning of this adventure, and I want to thank you all for stopping in and checking out what's going on and what I have to present today. So today I'm going to talk about a topic that I studied for a while, and it's called mud fossils. It was something I had never heard of, but it really took my interest because I'd never heard of it. And this professor has been working for, now it's been like 10 years studying this phenomena, and yet mainstream science doesn't want to hear what he has to say. And this seems to be so prevalent in today's world. But in any case, he has provided photos and also evidence of things that you might see, like one, he has like a dragon's picture, and it's in Africa, and it's like 1,000 miles long, but he shows you, he goes in on it, which you can see, I think, from Google Earth. He goes in on it, and you can see the blood vessels, the different parts of the dragon, and the dragon has attacked this gigantic fish. He shows the evidence that there were, that the fish had like a bite near the top of its body, near the fin, and you can see the scales of the fish. And what this professor has done, as he has studied these and actually taken samples, including, he recognizes blood vessels, because you see, with these fossilized animals, most of the flesh is gone, most of the skin, but there are bones, particles of bones that have become rock, and he is able to identify these through the years of his study. And he has taken DNA samples from what he poses to be blood vessels and has had it tested. And it does come out to be, this particular animal. I don't know if he would identify it as a dragon for the DNA, but it's definitely DNA in the blood. It's blood. And then the fish, the scales, everything he identifies, he has proven in tests, different tests, such as DNA, such as visual, and so forth. He has some other samples, and these are found all over the world. I mean, in almost all the countries. And you can see that he has like what he calls a duck head, and it's pretty big. I'd say it's like maybe 15 inches long, and it's very thick. And he identifies the skin tissues and the feathers, images of the feathers, and he turns it over. And you can really see now the duck bill, the eye, everything is visible. He has other rocks that just look like rocks to me, but he goes very close, and he can tell like a fingernail or a claw, and he can identify all that. He can identify the blood vessels, etc. There are other images where he shows these on the side of, say, a mountain. He can show what looks like a giant, a person. You can see all the features of the face, of the shoulders, of the arms, and the body. And of course, it's been weathered, so to speak. Much of it's gone because these things came from way before Christ, these images that he's seeing and that he's bringing forth. And this is his study, and I don't see why we should just throw that away. I think it's very interesting to look at all of the information put forward by anyone who wants to study that. So, excuse me a minute. All right, I'm sorry about that. So, lovely. That's interesting. What do you search for in Google to check these out? I would say in Google Earth, I would go to mud fossil. This one is in Africa, and look for the dragon. I would type words to that effect to look it out. Lovely. I want to check it out while listening to you. Well, hooray for you. I hope you do see it and find it. He showed something in America, but I couldn't really make it out. It was quite large. It went probably from Arizona up to New York, but it was hard to see with all the trees. So, lovely. What is it, mud castle? It's mud fossil, as in a fossil. So with that, it's a whole study. And there's actually, if you go on YouTube, you can find a lot of that information and pictures. Now, it was a few years ago, I found a lot more than that's wonderful, lovely. Oh, got it. I just love that. I hope you enjoy it, because it's pressed me to learn more things. Because he has shown over the years many, many different mud fossils, and huge, like giants. And like this man, I mean, you start to look at it and you think, that does look like a man. And it'll show the blood vessels. And that's what I thought was really intriguing, that he could actually identify blood vessels and go in there and get DNA from them. And they even have coloring to them. Like, if you're looking at that particular one that I was talking about with the dragon, it has different colorations. And with that dragon, you could also see some really weird, what would have been some kind of fluids that the dragon had dropped. And apparently this dragon was killed by some kind of a giant sword, which he thought might have been Zeus. Now, we hear a lot about Zeus and that bolt of lightning, so to speak. And I don't know, I wasn't there, but maybe there really was such a character who had a bolt of lightning, and he was from my understanding, he wasn't very nice. He was like one of the lead gods, and he ruled with an iron fist. He wasn't, very nice. He did bring in his own entities that he, so to speak, he created. He created Pandora, that we remember from Pandora's box, but it wasn't even a box, it was a jar. And he created her to be very attractive and lusty and very capable of convincing people. And so what would happen, people, I guess mostly males, would fall under her spell. And the next thing you know, she's releasing all these terrible plagues and everything else coming out of this jar that she's releasing on mankind. And, a lot of destruction and that type of thing was going on. So I'm glad we weren't here then anyway. I didn't see, I wasn't here to experience this stuff. But then when I was studying it today, I came across another presentation under the same category, more or less. And this woman is Adrienne Mayer. She's an older woman, and she has written all these stories. She's gone very deep into the past historical stories. And she wrote a book called Gods and Robots. And a lot of these things were real. They were actually, if you want to believe they're real, they were actually creating robotic humanoid type beings, which I would kind of relate to like the Greys we hear about, because they were like soldiers but made out of metal. And they were then you find that with these gods and robots, she had stories about Pandora, and she had stories about Jason and the Argonauts, which reminds me of movies I used to watch it's called Sinbad, and he would certainly look mythical out there on the ocean, and these giants would come out of the water, and this type of thing was happening. And she's claiming that there's evidence that this stuff was real. And you have someone called Athena, that Zeus also, he created her. And she was a Greek goddess. And he had, I think Athena was the one that went around that was good with the bow and arrow, from what I can remember. And you have, let's see what we have. They did all kinds of experiments, and I guess kind of like this seems to be happening today with creating. They want to have humanism with part robot and part human, but that goes back to, I remember in Star Trek: The Next Generation, I think it was, they had the Borg, where people, I don't know if it was done to them willingly, but they were turned into half robot and half human. And I'm sure it wasn't very nice for the human experience. And they had created these metal or fake bulls, and these bulls had the capacity to burn things, and they could go around and they could attack people, or they could attack other so-called gods and so forth. So this, going into this and just studying, I'm also, like seeing parallels now to this. So they had people who just invented super scientific projects. Like they figured out, I don't know if it was Jason or the Argonauts, but there was a giant, I remember this being in Sinbad, but they had like this giant man walking around, and attacking people. And he found there was this big bolt in his ankle, and they found that if they could get close enough and remove that bolt, that the giant would lose all of its power, because whatever was powering him inside was draining out of his foot, and thereby rendering him incapacitated or even destroyed him. So I'm trying to see, I have all these notes, and there were so many of these things that they were creating. Fergor, 1772. These are interesting topics. Will you write a book about these as well? If I do, I have to learn more, because I'm so fascinated looking at it. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then if you're watching YouTube, it'll lead to other people and other videos that are just overwhelming with what they're teaching and showing you. And I mean, I'm just really blown away by all this information. And I'm not going to reject it just because some scientist out there doesn't want to reach out and learn more, because, and not learn more is what I should say. He wants it to be in the box that it's in and stay there. And I'm not in a box, and I want to know more. And I think I have the right to look at the material and investigate it objectively, if I can make sense out of it, and this seems to make sense to me. And they had, the fiery bulls. And then, of all things, they were located, some of them in Alexandria. And if we remember, there's the story about Alexandria where they burned all the books. Maybe those books had information about this stuff. How do we know? We don't have the books now so that we could reference them and see just what kind of information they were putting out. What could we learn from it? I, for one, I'm open-minded, and I'm willing to learn something. So then they found that somewhere there, I know what it was, going back to the big dragon, if you're there, this professor is claiming that that's where, this is Fergor, 1772. Oh, that's a great conspiracy theory. Yeah, I'm sure it is. But I like it. I remember when Jesse Ventura had the show, The Conspiracy Theory, and I was very interested in that. Also, they were actually able to see where now I can't even think of what it's called, but they showed the circles, and they showed the way down beneath, like where you're looking through the clouds, they could show the remnants of I'm sorry, I can't even think of what it was called. It's an ancient civilization that some people claim did not exist. Some say that it did, but it'll come to me. In the meantime, there's another company, I believe it's called, it's What Makes a Child Smart. And this company, I think it was called CW, I don't see where I wrote it, but they are using visual videos such as this. You're right, this is Fergor, 1772, it is Atlantis. You can kind of see remnants of it if you look on the Google Earth where they have the big dragon, because I think he does show that, and he's claiming that's where it was. So with his evidence that he's brought up, and like he said, if you can prove something else is more accurate, then do that. I can't, because I haven't been all over the world to see everything. I have seen in Arizona, there are many things like the petrified forest, and you see how those trees became rock. And I mean, they are rock. One of them looks like it was sliced just like bread, and quite large. So it's definitely rock. And we don't know how that happened, but somebody does somewhere. Somebody understands it all. But these children, they're saying, were really become very smart. I'd have to go back and see the video. They weren't showing the video, but they were showing what that title was, how children become smart. And I mean, these were like babies that weren't even out of the little seat, like the car seat. I mean, well, not a car seat, but the carriers. And they are just mesmerized by all this information. They take it in, they learn it. And wouldn't this be a wonderful opportunity to teach children what they would really benefit humanity, benefit themselves, and bring us forward in a very positive way, like creating energy free. And it's apparent that maybe they had free energy. We look at the pyramids in Egypt and we see they must have had light inside those walkways and chambers, but yet there's no evidence of anyone ever using a torch. There's no charcoal or no evidence that anything like that was on the walls. So of course, they don't have electric lines, but then they tried to use mirrors to show that it came from the sun and they reflected the light, but that did not pan out. That didn't work. So I don't know, but I think there was a lot more going on than what we know. And I'm just looking into this to see what makes sense to me and what could have been and what we might have today if we had all the inventions that have been blocked and all of the we know that Tesla, he had stated that he could create energy free, that's electric, out of the atmosphere. He could do it. And he was shut down. They wouldn't let him do that. But he had all kinds of scientific papers that he drew up on different inventions that he was working on. And again, too, I find that he's very fascinating. And here in Fort Myers, more and more people are bringing out the fact that Tesla was the smart one and not Edison. So I don't know if you ever watch The Big Bang Theory, but they make a production out of being insulted if anyone calls them or refers to them as Edison, because they want to be like Nikola Tesla. So that's kind of interesting. But I have some small books about Nikola Tesla, and I think he was like smarter than anybody, maybe not smarter than Einstein, or maybe he was. And so who could challenge him? This is from Fairgoer, 1772. Was it Sheldon? Big Bang Theory, Sheldon. Yep, Sheldon. At least I can get a laugh in my day if I can watch that show. Not everybody likes it. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I find it pretty funny sometimes. So, yeah, that's what they talk about that. That's an insult to them, to Sheldon anyway. So you see that Tesla finally is being recognized for his intelligence. And I think he died in New York. That's the story. And in one of the apartments somewhere there. So going back to the mud fossils, this is something that we just happened upon, my daughter and I. She's into everything too. And I'm trying to remember Jason and the Argonauts, but I do remember one from Sinbad where they had, all of a sudden he's in a battle and these skeletons rise up from the earth and they're walking around with swords and attacking him. And according to this woman who went way back in ancient historical records, she says there was something they dropped and that came to life, but it wasn't the skeletons. It was definitely something else that was walking around and attacking everybody. And you have your Greek goddesses, but she did have a very interesting title, Gods and Robots. So, and Pandora. I mean, we've heard of these things, but who knows what they were. You know, you just think, oh, you know, there was a Pandora's box, but it was really a jar. And then trying to find then she also mentioned Hermes and who else did she mention? Those robots. So there were, I don't see where I put that, but there was something they threw on the ground that came to life and attacked everybody. Maybe they were some stones or something, because these android types, they were very difficult to fight because they had properties that were invincible type properties. And I don't really know how mankind was able to stand up to that. I mean, we know from Genesis that there were giants on the earth at that time when they had the flood. So how big they were, I don't know. I've heard that they've been seen or heard of in the Grand Canyon. If you go down there, I don't know of anyone who's gone down to see that, but I have heard of it. Then we know that, this could be anywhere. We hear of all kinds of strange things, but at least I hear of a lot of strange things. So anyway, I think that it would be nice to at least be aware of such things, and that that there are people out there studying it. And most of the people I see who are studying it are they've been around for a while. They may be in their 60s, 70s, and they're writing books about this stuff. And I think that I'm just glad somebody's doing it and bringing it to our attention. There were, if I could find them, I'll keep looking for them, but there were many other creatures and animals that this professor had come across in his studies, and has tried to show mainstream all this new information and bring it forth. And let's find out what the possibilities are, that there was a Zeus, or that there was, the other creatures I can remember from, and another one that there was, who was very dangerous, was Medusa, because she apparently had hair that was made out of snakes. And if you saw her, if you looked at her, it would turn you into stone. And I can remember from Clash of the Titans that they had such a mythical, so-called mythical character. But if she wasn't mythical, that's another dangerous thing they created and or made. The word is made. They didn't create them, they made them. And I can remember from studies of the Bible from Dr. Scott McQuaid. He's studied this immensely, and he says that the word made is different from the word created. One means one thing, and made means something else. And they were made. So that would mean that those gods, Zeus, whoever had not created, but again, made these things themselves. And it was even said that he was able to pull from his forehead, pull out this one creature, just imagining it. So he had that power to imagine things. But what I also read was that they had power over molecules. So they could go in and manipulate a molecular structure and turn it from one thing into something else. So that's another clue to be aware of, that they could work on the molecules and turn one thing into something else. It would be like what they call a person who shapeshifts. Yeah, that term. So I don't know. I mean, if they did it, maybe the person being manipulated wasn't in favor of it. But on the other hand, I should say, they could create something that could do its own shape shifting. So it may look like one thing and then look like something else. And when you look at all the science fiction stuff, a lot of it, where did they get that information? I don't think it was just all made up. It's just kind of amazing how it seems to work out. And they had shapeshifters, they had cloaking devices, that they could put around something and you wouldn't see it. It would be there, but you wouldn't see it because it's been cloaked or hidden somehow. So I know once I was out in a friend of mine who lives in Arizona, we went out to, of all places, Area 51, which you cannot get into it because the sheriff will come and pick you up and put you in jail. But the areas you could walk into, we did, and we weren't there very long. And on the ridge in front of us, these, what did she call them? Camo dudes. They were vehicles like Jeeps painted in camouflage. They just popped up and were watching everything we did. I took a picture. Okay, Fairgore, 1772. So true. I believe some of it are real, but they do not want us to know. I know that. I believe that they don't want us to know, and they think that we'll just, believe them. And it's gotten to the point where I don't believe anything they say, nothing at all. So anyway, they say you can't take a picture. They have signs up, just like you've seen. Their signs are there that they can use what kind of force, fatal, they can enforce whatever they're saying to the max. And that's what's on the signs. Don't step across. And there's nothing there. You're in the middle of the desert. I mean, it's just a desert. And you look up on the ridge, and of course you have somebody watching you. But I took a picture of the sign. And when I got that picture back, there was something else in the picture, in the sky, in the blue sky above the driveway type of roadway, was this spherical object, and it had like some kind of like pins sticking out of it, around it. And I just studied it. I don't know what it was, but maybe that was a premature drone. I don't know. But I had the opportunity to show them to Linda Moulton Howe, and she looked at them and she thought they were maybe some kind of drone. So, and then we took a picture. We were in a truck and we took a picture of the ridge with the camouflage vehicle there. And when we got the picture back, that one had like, and keep in mind, we're in the desert. That one had like what looked like a big drop of water in the picture coming down the picture and kind of blocking out the camouflage vehicle. So I don't know how they did that, but they did. And these were in the days when you took your photos over to the photo mart or wherever and had them developed. They were, what was 35 millimeter. And that's what was in those pictures. I don't remember them all now, but that was back in, I want to say, either the early 90s or the late 80s that we had that opportunity. And we were, looking for things you read about and hear about, the black mailbox, which was really a white mailbox, and different things like that. We went to Rachel, is a little town there that's adjacent to Area 51. It's a very unique place. The walls are plastered with pictures that people have taken. And it's a restaurant, of course, and they have all kinds of things they sell, cups and shirts and what have you. And it was so interesting because you sit down to eat, and the next thing you know, you're up walking around looking at the pictures. It's like you're not even in a restaurant, but that's kind of what it felt like. It was very unique. So that was a one-time thing that we did. But I didn't know anything about mud fossils then, or maybe I would have been looking for that. And of course, the petrified forest was very interesting, since you can definitely see that these were once trees. And this is something else that the professor said, that these things, anything, plants, animals, can become petrified or fossilized, if you want to call it that. In my own life, I've only found one fossil, and that was in Ohio, in our front yard. And I was maybe 12 years old, and I found the fossil. It was of a seashell, and it had maybe some other stones with it. But I always kept it for a long time. It's the only one I found, but I did end up I sent it to my own grandson because I knew he didn't have anything like that, and that he would probably hold on to it and take interest in it. So fossils are pretty interesting, and like I say, my real interest, I got that interest when I started watching these videos. And at the time when I first started watching them, I don't think that they were on Google Earth. They might have been, but this particular professor, he just had so many pictures and so much evidence, and he had gone probably all over the world looking for this stuff. So you have that, and sharing that information, and I really enjoyed that. But I like looking at the ancient ruins and stuff they find. That you will see those on Ancient Aliens. They'll show a lot of ancient ruins. And I was thinking, I don't know if I mentioned it, but if you look at Helen of Troy and the Trojan horse, at one time that was thought to be a myth and not even true. And then one day they happened to be doing some digging and looking for ancient sites, and lo and behold, they found Helen of Troy. They found not Helen of Troy, but they found that very place, and with the Trojan horse. And thinking of that, where they all hid in that wooden horse, presented it as a gift. This kind of goes along with what he's showing. I mean, showing that how they were battling each other, how they fought, what they did, and that's pretty amazing. So in any case, I don't know. I don't have much light around me, but it's getting dark out there. But in any case, that was one of their methods, I guess. Surprise, the element of surprise. You think you're getting a gift, and the horse is full of soldiers that are going to take you out. So I know there's probably a whole lot more information on those videos that he showed, and also the one that Adrian, what was her name? Not Adrian. Or was it? So anyway, she had her book again, Gods and Robots, because that's what they were. They had all kinds of power, and we see with Zeus, he was really powerful with his bolt of lightning that he was thrashing around. And this would be very lethal, of course, but they don't really show a lot of what mankind, what he looked like. But apparently, maybe he was hiding. I don't know. But that's a lot to cope with, I think, when you have all these demons that you can't control that are controlling everything. And I actually believe there are demons, and that they have control of a lot of things. And I believe there are people like Faust who sold his soul to the devil only to find that he does come to collect it. So that's what that story, Faust, who he was. So that's something that I wouldn't want to get into it. I guess some people wouldn't care. They may not believe it. They might find that they're in a trap they can't get out of. But in any case, there's so much of this stuff. And how long has it been going on? Apparently millennia. And when you look at that dragon thing, I mean, that's like he said, it's 1,000 miles long. I mean, imagine something like that flying around. Fairgore, 1771. Do you believe that some people making a deal with the devil to get what they want? Well, that's what I'm learning when I watch different podcasts. And it seems that some people are very successful, that they can get money, all the money they want. That's what Faust wanted. They can get somebody if they want a particular person. I don't know, it depends on the person's thinking. Really, everything's up to our own thinking and how we think and how that turns out and what we can believe. I didn't used to believe that, but now I'm seeing so much stuff like, I don't know, maybe they do have this power beyond what normal people have. It seems like in any case, some people get away with a lot more than what other people do, but I would prefer to do what's right and to follow the teachings of Christ. Now, this professor who was studying all these fossils in the beginning, he did not believe in God or Christ. And he said now, 10 years later, after completing so many studies, that he definitely believes that there was the Christ, and he does believe in God. So something that he's learned along the way has convinced him that that's the real truth. And I'd like to believe that too. And I do believe that. And I think that the real power is with God, and that there was a battle between Lucifer and Christ, because it is said in the Bible that he was able to get rid of demons that were possessing people. So, I mean, if that was actually going on, then why should I doubt it? I mean, this is what was said. That's what actually happened to some people, that they somehow get taken. Fairgrower 1772, I like you so much. It is very rare to see someone who believes in God and believes in those theories about science as well. Yeah, because, and you know why? Because there's so much that we don't know. And I'm finding that out. I mean, you can't know that a person is, oh, this person wouldn't do anything like that. No, he's a good person. I've seen his movies, blah, blah, blah. And then I can remember when there was this serial killer that you probably might remember. His last name was Gacy, and he had killed all these little boys, and he had them buried under his floor. And the neighbors were saying, oh, but he's such a nice guy. I don't think he would do something like that. Here he's your neighbor. You don't even know he's doing this stuff. And it's the same thing I think it was in Cleveland, where those girls had been kidnapped, and this guy had them in his basement. And none of the neighbors, ever suspected anything, or I don't know. I find that very curious, really. So, I just, you can't trust saying that, oh, that person's nice because he said hello on the street or something. No, that's not enough. I think in your heart, you can tell if somebody's really a good person, or if there's somebody that you have to be leery of. But there are a lot of people doing a lot of good things too. But still, better to know them. I know I have problems getting around, and one neighbor down the street, every Thursday, that's the day before the trash is put out. He walks down the street and checks my trash cans, and he puts them out for me. There's really good people that do good things, and then the other neighbor next door to me, and he's probably my age, he may be in his 80s. After the trash is picked up, he always comes and brings back the empty trash cans. And I don't have to ask him. When I was out one day pulling the trash can, he came up beside me and grabbed the trash can and started pushing. And then ever since then, he told me he's going to, bring it in. And he does. And it's not something I asked him to do, but it's something I'm very grateful for. Fairgrower 1772. John Wayne Gacy was very scary. He was the killer clown, and that's why I'm afraid of clowns. Yeah, I can believe it. And I remember that movie Poltergeist, and that clown doll that they had, that I thought was kind of scary too. And then you watch these different shows and you see, oh, the dolls, this one lady had, I don't know, 100 dolls or something. And they say that the dolls are the canisters for souls. I haven't gone far enough to believe that, but it's kind of eerie. And, you wonder about such things. And then mirrors are another thing, but I'm not really afraid of mirrors. But some people are, and some people see very strange things. But I don't know if you've seen that movie or know that show, Beyond Belief, which they show you like 5 different stories, and you pick out which ones you think that they made up and which ones are actually true stories. And I'm amazed at the ones that are true. They're the ones I wouldn't think could possibly be true, but they are. So we don't know everything. And that's why my mind is open. That's why I'm not living in a box. And that's why, yeah, probably I am gullible sometimes. But if I do eventually see that, Fairgore 1772, is that a movie? It's not a movie, but you can see it. It's a show. It's a regular series that they have, and I've seen it on not on Rumble, on Roku. Roku has it, and I think maybe one of the shows in there, Peacock, because you can get a lot of different free programs that will host a whole variety of different shows. What's the title? Fairgore 1772. What's the title? It seems very interesting. It's called Beyond Belief, and I've seen 2 different narrators, and I think Charles Grodin might be one. I'm not sure I remember right, but they have 5 different videos that they show, and I'm telling you, it's like, how can that be true? And so you find yourself in the guessing game. I'm going to say that one wasn't true, or I'm going to say that one was true. And it's just absolutely amazing. So there was one show where a young man, probably in his 20s, he was flying a small plane, and he landed in, well, at one of the small airports, which I'm saying small, meaning there was just enough room for a few planes and fuel tanks and a little store. And he got out of the plane and he went into the store. Now, this young man had lost his own father in a plane crash when he was maybe 6. And the person who ran the store remembered the father and remembered the young man, who he might go in there and he might do a favor for the guy if the guy needed something delivered somewhere or whatever. So he's in there talking to this guy, and all of a sudden they hear the engine start up on the plane. And so the storekeeper said, "Is somebody flying your plane? Is somebody taking your plane?" And this young man runs out, "Oh my gosh, somebody's taking my plane." And they took off in the plane, his plane. And, he was, just flabbergasted. And he goes over, and there's like an oil slick where the plane had been setting and, or sitting. I don't know which version is the correct one now. But all they could do was kind of wait and see what happened. And then this plane goes up, and it goes up straight, and then it starts to come down because now it's losing all this oil or fuel. It was one or the other. And it was coming out, and there was smoke coming out of this plane. And then the plane it eventually crashed right there, on the at the airport there on the tarmac. It crashed. And so they ran out there to see if this person was alive or what had happened to him. And they rush out there, and there's nobody flying the plane. It didn't have anybody in it. And there was a picture that the young man had kept of his father on the dash. And the picture was burning. It burnt up. But there was, in its place, there was this chain with a medal on it, some kind of Christian medal. And he took that and kept that because he came to believe that it was his own father had seen what was happening, that it was leaking and it was going to crash, and that was his way of saving his son. Now, how can a spirit or a ghost go flying a plane? I don't understand that, but that's what happened. And in the end, they'll show you each story, a clip of each story, and they'll tell you whether it was true or not. And it just so happened that that one was based on real facts. So who knows? Again, I mean, there's strange things really all the time, everywhere. So they said that was a true story. So that's one of the examples of what kind of stories you'll see there. I really enjoy the show because it's so strange. Some of the things, even if they made it up, it's strange. And, you just don't know. I don't think I've had anything strange like that happening. I know not like that I've never had, but, there's always tomorrow. I know strange things happen. So I'd have to think about that for a while. I know we had a house next door when I was living in West Palm Beach that neighbors told us they claimed it was haunted. So if they say it was, then maybe it was. Fairgore, 1772. What do you think about time traveling? Well, I've seen evidence of, from people talking about it. And then there's that, what have I heard it's called? The Looking Glass Project. So that might be something to do with it. I don't know what that is, but that's something they talk about on some of the alternative shows that I watch. We've heard of other people, their stories, but wouldn't that be amazing? Then you have that, what do they call it? The Mandela effect, where they claim somebody crossed timelines, and they're showing you different things that happened that are different now than they were to you 10 years ago. And one of the things that happened was the Bible. I remember having a picture with the child in the Bible and them talking about how the children would be able to talk to, the animals, the lions and all this, and it would be safe. And they talked about the lion. Well, I didn't believe it, but they told me that's no longer in there. So I go there and I look, and sure enough, there's no story. There's no picture of the lion. Now it's a story of a fox. Now it's got a picture of a fox. So I've been on the earth long enough to know that it used to be a lion, but now it's not. So who knows again? I don't know everything, and I know things are stranger. What do they say? Stranger than fiction. So those are good topics and categories. And I think I'm going to see if I can't get that video about the children being so smart. And maybe this is a way to help our children learn things and keep that knowledge. So I didn't really see it, but I did write down that title. And I'm sorry I don't have better lighting tonight. Anyway, I'm very glad that you've all come to listen to my stories. They may sound ridiculous or they may be interesting. I'm hoping they are. They were interesting to me. And now I've, renewed my interest in the mud fossils. So I think I'm going to go back and look more into that topic. But he was mentioning a group of books that somebody wrote all about this kind of stuff. There must have been 12 or 13 books. So I don't even know what those books were called. But they had talk about inventions and the female androids, and they were the gods of what do they call invention. And apparently somebody caught on to that and wrote many, many books about it. So a whole series of books. So there's no telling what all you can learn from that. So in any case, I'm really happy that I had this opportunity to talk about this. I watched for 3 hours today, trying to take in as much as I could so that I could, repeat it and tell you about it. And because it's not something that's advertised, they don't really advertise the mud fossils. And I don't even think it's on Ancient Aliens, no, but I think I have seen it in that show where the guy goes to ancient ruins and tries to get more information about things and whether they're true or not. But I don't watch that very often. I don't get that opportunity, but I think there may be some mud fossil information there. But chances are, probably anywhere you go, you can find out more about mud fossils now that the word's out. So anyway, I'm really glad you came and listened to my story. And Fairgore 1772. It was so lovely talking to you today, Terry. I'll definitely wait for your next live session. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope, and I will have more light next time. And anyway, I'm just going to say bye for now. And I hope you get to see that show about the different stories, the Beyond Belief. So bye for now. And I hope you all have a great time the rest of your day.